Take a look at commercial flight tracking data over South Asia. You will see airplanes abruptly veering away from an invisible line in the sky. This is the result of a total airspace closure between India and Pakistan, a measure rarely seen outside of active war zones. On the ground, the situation is equally rigid. Official, direct trade has entirely collapsed. If Indian goods are going to reach Pakistani markets today, they have to take massive detours, routing through third-party hubs like the United Arab Emirates before finally reaching their destination. Diplomatic channels are equally barren. Neither country currently hosts a high commissioner in the other's capital. Instead of talking to each other, officials are talking at each other. Recently, Pakistan's defense establishment has publicly floated the threat of preemptive military strikes against India. Relying solely on these public metrics, you would logically conclude that these two nuclear-armed neighbors are nearing a point of open conflict, but intelligence indicates something different is happening behind closed doors. Despite the military posturing, senior-level back-channel meetings are actively taking place right now. To maintain absolute secrecy, delegations traveled far from their shared border. They are holding these talks in neutral third-party cities, specifically Bangkok and Colombo. The structure of these meetings shouldn't be a complete surprise. 13 months ago, a U.S. official leaked this exact scenario. Marco Rubio stated publicly that Washington was pushing both nations toward neutral site negotiations to secure an immediate ceasefire. At the time, the Indian government rejected the claim. The fact that these precise meetings are happening today reveals that despite the public denials, both sides have been forced to change their approach. With public animosity at a historic high, we have to ask, what invisible, catastrophic pressure is forcing these sworn enemies to the negotiating table? The answer requires us to look past traditional land disputes. This phase of the India-Pakistan relationship is being dictated by access to water. Moving into 2026, Pakistan is suffering through a severe, nationwide water shortage. This image captures the reality on the ground in Karachi, a major economic hub. Right now, local utilities are failing to provide reliable water to 7. Look at this downward trending projection. By suspending the treaty's guarantees, India severely limits Pakistan's predictable water flow, throwing their entire agricultural planning system into chaos. Pakistan's leadership actually anticipated a systemic collapse last year because of this specific treaty suspension. They were saved by geographic luck. The extreme floods of 2025 devastated local infrastructure, but the massive influx of excess water kept their agricultural sector alive for exactly one more harvest cycle. That buffer is gone. Pakistan is operating on borrowed time, and this delay has handed India quiet, overwhelming leverage. Environmental strain is only half of the crisis. Internal instability is rapidly escalating within Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. To manage the ongoing civilian protests there, the state has deployed extreme countermeasures, blocking essential medical supplies, cutting off internet access, and directing lethal force against unarmed crowds. The response has drawn intense public condemnation from India. Officials, including External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, are actively demanding the international community hold Pakistan accountable for these operations. When a government blockades its own citizens while threatening military strikes against its neighbor, the foreign aggression serves an internal purpose. The regime is buckling under the weight of resource starvation and domestic revolt. We need to view these secret talks in Bangkok and Colombo through this lens. This is not a sudden desire for friendship or normalized relations. Neither side is preparing to walk back their core ideological stances or surrender an inch of claimed territory. Facing utility failures and an agricultural cliff, it is highly probable that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the Pakistani leadership initiated these meetings out of absolute necessity to secure water. India's motivation to attend is equally pragmatic. Quietly managing the resource demands of a struggling neighbor is far safer than dealing with the uncontrolled collapse of a nuclear-armed state right on your border. Severe resource scarcity is forcing cooperation behind closed doors, even between the most bitter enemies. This leaves the region with a complex strategic dilemma. Is it wise for India to participate in these secret back channels while Pakistan continues to broadcast extreme hostility to the world? Engaging in diplomacy while the terms of the Indus Waters Treaty are frozen and the violence in POK remains unaddressed carries significant political risks for New Delhi. The historical conflict over territory is now inseparable from an urgent struggle for survival. The defining battles of the future will be negotiated over the fundamental resources required to keep their citizens alive.
If you value clarity over chaos, explore more on Clear Lens X.